Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
So we got.
Well, and actually, it was interesting because we were talking about earlier, as we were coming in, how does one greet one another on Tisha B'Av? And so asked Rabbi Google, and gotta find out how. But it is still Shabbat, and so we can actually still say Shabbat Shalom. And technically, it's until we close Shabbat, it's already been Tisha B'Av since last night.
Mm-hmm.
But we weren't able to observe it until starting tonight after we do Havdalah, after we separate. So actually saying Shabbat Shalom. So it just took me a little bit, Norm, to kind of let my head kind of think into it and go into it. We can say Shabbat Shalom to one another right now. And then following that, one does not greet anyone. We just kind of acknowledge each other's presence.
It reminds me, the Mishnah teaches that when you approach a mourner, you don't ask how you're doing. You just say hi. You just let him know, her know that you are here and that you are present. And at Tisha B'Av, it might be a similar situation. We just acknowledge each other's presence, and we greet each other just by acknowledging our presences. But it's Shabbat, and so we are going to start this gathering by separating from Shabbat, by doing Havdalah, that you can find on pages 2 and 3.
ben kodesh lecho, atotenu yimcho, zarenu v'chaspenu yarbekacho, v'hakochavim balayla.
I invite you to turn your booklets to page 5. As we go to the book of Kohelet, to Ecclesiastes, to think about different times in our lives, to think about that transition between Shabbat and Tisha B'Av, and about how we approach different times in our lives. On page 5. Jerusalem isn't just the physical entity of a city. Jerusalem is a concept that evokes our spiritual aspiration for unity, in Tisha B'Av, as we commemorate the destruction of the earthly Jerusalem, we also recognize the beginning of a spiritual exile. Through the text, we connect with the tears of our ancestors, weeping by the waters of Babylon and yearning for the home that had been lost. But also, as the book of Lamentations expresses, crying for a broken relationship with God. With the foundation of the State of Israel, for many Jews, Tisha B'Av lost its relevance. After all, we were back home, and that's an undeniable truth. But even the most important miracle that happened to the Jewish people in the last 2,000 years can't prevent us from a spiritual exile. Tisha B'Av marks in our calendars the day after which we undertake the process of return, Teshuvah, that we aspire to reach to Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. In Tisha B'Av, we try to recognize our exile. We try to understand how far we are from the places in which we strive to be as individuals and as a society. We admit the painful reality of a distance that has gotten us so far that we are not able to see the promised land. Today we cry. We cry because it's just what we need. Our tears help us see more clearly. We read from the book of Lamentations, Eicha. We engage in one of the most common Jewish practices. We complain. Eicha, how can this be possible? But as we cry from the bottom of our hearts and wonder and accuse Eicha, we gradually start to hear God's voice. We hear God's ontological question to Adam, Ayeka, where are you? A question meant to function as a GPS to our souls, and that curiously spells exactly as Eicha. However, the Ayeka question is an invitation to self-awareness and personal responsibility that can help us trigger the beginning of our journey back. As the last verse of the book of Lamentations states, Ashivenu Adonai Elecha benashuva, return us to you, Yah, and we will return. Let us hear your voice, let us perceive your presence, and we will return. Hadesh Yameinu kekedem, let our bitter tears clear up the path for a life of renewal and of unity with our souls and you.
Tractate Yoma in the Talmud teaches us why was the first temple destroyed. Because of three things which prevailed there: idolatry, incest, and bloodshed. But why was the second temple destroyed? Seeing that in its time people were occupying themselves with Torah, commandments, and charity, because therein prevailed hatred without cause. That teaches us that groundless hatred is considered equivalent to the three sins of idolatry, immorality, and bloodshed altogether.
It is a tradition in weddings, particularly in Israel. I don't think it's done very often in the United States, to repeat this sentence from the Psalms as we break the glass. אם אשכחך ירושלים תשכח ימיני, תדבק לשוני לחיקי, אם לא אזכריכי, אם לא ילד ירושלים על ראש שמחתי. In moments in which we are trying to build something new, we are asked to remember our personal and collective brokenness. And as we head into the book of Eicha, we'll take a moment to think about our brokenness and about the lost Jerusalem. We are on page 8.
אם לא הלב ארוש ארוש שמחתי אם אשכחך ירושלים תשכח ימיני תדבק לשוני עליכי כי אם לא אזכרכי אם אשכחך ירושלים תשכח ימיני תדבק לשוני עליכי כי אם לא אזכרכי אם לא אעלה אם לא אעלה את ירושלים הראש שמחתי הראש הראש שמחתי
We move now to the reading of our scroll of Echam, and I would like us to join in the blessing also over the reading of the scroll. Al Mikra Megillah, if we join together. Baruch
Atah
Adonai,
Eloheinu melech haolam, אשר קידשנו במצוותיו וציוונו
על קריאת
Megillah. And so I would like to call up our two other readers, Alan Shebro and Dr. Norm Rosen, to join us up here.
And we will need two English translators.
So we will have, you want to bring up two English translators?
Yeah.
Okay. Do we have two volunteers to read English
We
in
need two
between the
volunteers,
verses?
English translators. Say me and come here. Yeah, you say me, right? Oh, so at least say me. Good.
I have a mic, I'll take one.
Good.
Echa yashva varan, ha'ir rabati aham, hayta ke'almana, rabati vagoyim, sarati bandinot, hayta lamas. Bachotiv ke balayla udimata alecheya en lamnachem mikol ohaveha koreha bagduva hayula leoivim galta Yehuda meoni umerov avoda hi yashva vagoyim lo matza manoa korodfeha isiguha ben hamitzrayim darchei Tzion avelot mibeli ba'emoed Kol she'areha shomemin, kohaneha ne'enachim, betuleha nugot, vehimar la. Hayu tzareha lerosh, oiveha shalu, ki Adonai hoga, aro peshaeha, olaleha, halchu shedi, lifnei tzar.
We'll translate verses 1 through 5 of chapter 1.
I said I'll do it. How deserted lies the city, once so full of people. How like a widow is she, who once was great among the nations. She who was queen among the provinces has now become a slave. Bitterly she weeps at night, tears are on her cheeks. Among all her lovers, there is no one to comfort her. All her friends have betrayed her. They have become her enemies. After affliction and harsh labor, Judah has gone into exile. She dwells among the nations. She finds no resting place. And all who pursue her have overtaken her in the midst of her distress. The roads to Zion mourn, for no one comes to her appointed festivals. All her gateways are desolate. Her priests groan. Her young women grieve, and she is in bitter anguish. Her foes have become her masters. Her enemies are at ease. The Lord has brought her grief because of her many sins. Her children have gone into exile, captive before the foe.
Chapter 2, verses 1 through 6.
Echa Yair be'apo Adonai et bat Zion Ishlich mishamayim aretz Tiferet Yisrael V'lo zachar hadom raglav b'yom apo Bil'a Adonai V'lo chamal et Kol Neot Yaakov Haras Bevrato Mitzarevat Yehuda Higia La'aretz Hilel Mamlacha V'sareha Gadar Bachariav Kol Keren Yisrael Heshiv Achor Yemino mipnei oyev, Viv'ar v'Yaakov ke'esh le'ahava, Achla saviv, Dara kadsho ke'oyev, Nitzav yemino ketzar, V'yaharog kol machamadei ayin, Be'ohel bat Zion, Shafach ka'esh chamato, Haita Adonai ke'oyev, Bila Yisrael, Bila kol armenoteha, Shichet mitzarav, Vayerev bevat Yehuda, Ta'aniya va'aniya, Vayachamos kagan shuko, Shichet mo'ado, Shikach Adonai b'tzion, Moed v'shabbat, Vayinat b'za'amapo, Melech v'chohen.
Alas, Adonai in God's wrath has shamed fair Zion. God cast down from heaven to earth the majesty of Israel. God did not remember God's footstool on God's day of wrath. Adonai has laid waste without pity all the habitations of Jacob. God has razed in God's anger fair Judah's strongholds. God has brought low in dishonor the kingdom and its leaders. In blazing anger, God has cut down all the might of Israel. God has withdrawn God's right hand in the presence of the foe. God has ravaged Jacob like flaming fire, consuming on all sides. God bent God's bow like an enemy, poised God's right hand like a foe. God slew all who delighted the eye, poured out God's wrath like fire in the tent of fair Zion. Adonai has acted like a foe. God has laid waste Israel, laid waste all her citadels, destroyed her strongholds. God has increased within fair Judah mourning and moaning, has stripped God's booth like a garden, has destroyed God's tabernacle. Adonai has ended in Zion festival and Sabbath. In God's raging anger, God has spurned king and priest.
Verse 20. Re'e Adonai v'habita limei olatako im tochana nashim piryam olele tipuchim im yehareg b'mikdash Adonai kohen v'navi.
See, O Lord, and behold, to whom you have done this. Alas, women eat their own fruit, their newborn babes. Alas, priest and prophet are slain in the sanctuary of Adonai.
Chapter 3, verses 4 through 7. Bila v'sari v'ori shiba ratzmotai bana alai vayakaf rosh utla'a b'machashakim hoshivani kimete olam gadar badi v'lo etzeh hichbid nechoshti.
My flesh and skin has worn away, my bones shattered all around me. God has built misery and hardship, made me dwell in darkness like those long dead. God has walled me in, and I cannot break out. I've been weighed down with chains.
Chapter 4, verses 1 through 7. Echa yu am zahav, yeshne haketem hatov, tishtapechna avnei kodesh, berosh kol chutzot.
B'nei Tzion hayikarim, hamesulaim b'paz. Echa nechshavu l'nishei cheres, ma'aseh yadei yotzer. Gam tanim, gam sushad, eniku gurehen, batan mila achzar, kainim bamidbar.
Davak leshon yonek, el chiko batzama, olalim sha'alu lechem, pores ein lahem.
האוכלים במעדנים, נשמו בחוצות. האמונים עלי תולה, חיבקו אשפתות. ויגדל עוון בית עמי, מחטאת סדום. הפוכה כמו רגע, ולא הלכו ידיים.
זעקו נזיריה משלג, צחו מחלב, דמו עצם מפנינים, ספיר גזרתם.
Alas, the gold is dulled, debased the finest gold. The sacred gems are spilled at every street corner. The precious children of Zion, once valued as gold, alas, they are counted as earthen pots, work of a potter's hands. Even jackals offer the breast and suckle their young. But my poor people has turned cruel, like ostriches of the desert. The tongue of the suckling cleaves to its palate for thirst. Little children beg for bread, none gives them a morsel. Those who feasted on dainties lie famished in the streets. Those who were reared in purple have embraced refuse heaps. The guilt of my poor people exceeded the iniquity of Sodom, which was overthrown in a moment without a hand striking it. Her elect were purer than snow, whiter than milk. Their limbs were ruddier than coral. Their bodies were like sapphire.
Chapter 5, verses 14 through 22.
זקנים משער שבתו, בחורים מנגינתם, Shabbat mesos libenu, nepach le'evel mecholenu, nafla ateret roshenu, oina lanu ki chatanu, al zeh hayadav libenu, alele chashku einenu, al har Zion sheshamen. Shualim hilchu vo, ata Adonai leolam teshev, Tisha ledor vador, lama lanetzach tishkachenu, tazvenu leorech yamim. Hashivenu Adonai elecha v'nashuva chadesh yamenu kekedem. Ki imaos me'astanu katzafta aleinu ad moed. Hashivenu Adonai elecha v'nashuva chadesh yamenu kekedem.
The old men are gone from the gate, the young men from their music. Gone is the joy of our hearts, our dancing is turned into mourning. Crown has fallen from our head, woe to us that we have sinned. Because of this, our hearts are sick. Because of these, our eyes are dimmed. Because of Mount Zion, which lies desolate, jackals prowl over it. But you, O God, are enthroned forever. Your throne endures through the ages. Why have you forgotten us utterly, forsaken us for all time? Take us back, O God, to yourself, and let us come back. Renew our days as of old. For truly you have rejected us, bitterly raged against us. Take us back, O God, to yourself, and let us come back. Renew our days as of old.
On page 13. Sharei dima lo ninalu. Though the gates of prayer have been locked, nevertheless, the gates of tears have not been locked. Our tradition teaches that sometimes when is it working? Oh, good. Especially in the context of Tisha B'Av, children of Israel felt that their words weren't relevant anymore, that their prayers weren't heard. The tradition teaches that when there are no more words, when words can't be heard, so the gates of tears still open. We always have space to cry without words.
It's so hard for us to imagine being in touch with somebody who is in another world. But for the Rebbes, the holy masters, it is another thing altogether. For them, from this world to the upper realms was so close, so close. Before Reb Yitzchak Vorker left this world, he promised his son that he would contact him from heaven and tell him how things were for him in Gan Eden. But 4 weeks passed, and his son didn't hear from him. He couldn't understand what was going on, so he went to his father's best friend, Reb Menachem Mendel of Kotsk, and he said, Rebbe, I'm so worried about my holy father. He promised to come back. He promised to come speak to me, if only in a dream, but it's been 4 weeks, and I haven't heard anything from him. Do you think something could have happened to him in heaven? And the Kotzker answered, the truth is that your father also promised me to come back. Tell me what happened to him in the world above. And I got worried when I didn't hear from him. So I went up to heaven to look for him. Let me tell you what happened. I went everywhere in heaven, searching for your father. I went to the palaces of all the tzaddikim, all the holy people, of Rashi, of Rambam, of Rabbi Akiva. I visited the place of the prophets and even went to the highest levels. To Moshe Rabbeinu and our holy fathers, Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov. Everywhere I went, I said, I'm looking for my friend, the exalted Rabbi Yitzchak Vorker. Have you seen him? They all told me, yes, he was here. But he didn't stay. He went on. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know where else to go. So finally, I asked the angels, have you seen the holy Rabbi Yitzchak Vorker? Do you know where he went? And this time I got an answer. The angels told me, if you keep going in this direction, you'll come to a very thick forest. You must pass through it. And when the forest ends at the sea, that's where you'll find him. So I kept walking through heaven. And as the angels had said, I soon came to the darkest, most forbidding forest I had ever seen in my life. I wanted to run away. I started to hear a strange sound. Finally, I came out of the trees and found myself on the shores of the sea. An ocean so big, I couldn't see all the way to the other side, and I realized that the sound that I had been hearing was coming from the waves. But it was not the sound that waves usually make. It was more like a wail, moaning, a scream, full of the most desperate pain. Never in my life had I ever heard the waves crying and begging like this. And there at the edge of the ocean, I saw your father, the holy Vorker. He was leaning on his staff, staring at the sea. He never took his eyes off the water. I ran toward him. Rabbi Yitzchak, my holy friend, what is this place? What are you doing here? He turned to me. Oh, Mandel, don't you recognize this ocean? No. What is it? What's that sound? What's going on here? Mendel, let me tell you something. This is the ocean of tears, the sea of Jewish tears. I want you to know that every tear is so precious to the master of the world. God takes all of the tears and places them here. And there were so many tears that they formed this huge ocean. When I came here and heard the sounds of the waves, the cry of the suffering of so many, I can't tell you how much it broke my heart. And at that moment, I made a sacred vow. Master of the world, I swear to you by your holy name that I will not move from this place until you have mercy on your people, until you turn all of the pain into joy. My dear friend, said the holy Rebbe, I will never leave this ocean until God has wiped away all of the tears.
Can I ask for a volunteer who wants to read? Steve, you say me? This text, integration.
Integration.
Slow.
But
You have to
how
go
do
very
we?
slow. Very slow.
But how do we reintegrate and collect the old and broken parts of self? And what affords us the ability to do so? A tear is a cleansing agent. The waters of our tears rinse out, purify, and ultimately allows for full transformation to transpire. In between the two extremes of throwing into the water and gathering from the water are the 10 days of Teshuvah. In those honest days of introspection and deeply opening up, who is not moved to tears? If you are aware and conscious of the times, and you open up and expose all of yourself to yourself, and let it all come out, you will eventually find yourself crying. If not, says Ari Yitzhak Luria, your soul is not complete. Something is seriously amiss and drastically misaligned. Paradoxically, this awareness itself of your lack of inspiration will catapult you and may even shake you out of your complacency and spiritual insensitivity. Either way, by the time we have reached the climax at the end of Yom Kippur, our tours have utterly inspired a total reorientation so that we can recollect and regather our lost parts and establish them within the new elevated context of our life.
Thank you very much. So, I want to invite you to take a moment and to think what you need to cry for. As we start thinking about the process of Teshuvah that will start tomorrow, and as we start thinking about what are the places that we need to return to, what is the idea of Jerusalem, what is the idea of integrity that we hold dear. I want to invite you to take a moment. You can close your eyes, you can keep them open, and think about what are the things that you need to cry for. Let's take just 2 minutes for that. I invite you to take a deep breath. Please turn with me to page 16. And let's read together the verse from Book of Lamentations, chapter 1, verse 16. For these things I weep.
My eyes flow with tears, for there is no one nearby to comfort me, no one to revive my soul. By the waters of Babylon, we laid our lyres down. By the waters of Babylon, we laid our lyres down, laid our lyres down for a long, long time. Whoa, ay, 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 by the waters of Babylon, we laid our lyres down, laid our lyres down for a long, long time.
In order to start the process of returning or building again, one of the key elements that we need to work with is compassion. And there is an interesting friction between the place of self-compassion that doesn't allow us to move forward, and on the other hand, the lack of self-compassion that also doesn't allow us to move forward. There's a place in which we need to find the balance of self-compassion that will allow us to move toward a better place.
Because when we think about with the destruction, and as we were reading through Lamentations, we beat ourselves up. We say, look at how we have sinned. Look at how we have done wrong. Look at everything that we put before us. This is our fault. How often in our own lives do we do the same? How often do we sit there and say, look what I've done wrong. Look the mistakes that I've made. How horrible I am. How terrible I am. And we beat ourselves up. But we are a holy vessel. And our goal is to be able to find the compassion within ourselves, to seek healing and wholeness and forgiveness.
And if you say that, so let's add that that's the connection between the bidui and slichot. In Yom Kippur, the connection between the confession and the prayers for forgiveness. So we first confess, and we say, "Achet shechatanu lefanecha," for the sin that we have committed, and we beat up ourselves. And then we say, we know that God is going to forgive. We know that we can move forward. We know that we will have the love and the compassion that will allow us to move forward. מסתובב
בעיר הישנה ורעש בה מכל פינה. אני מכיר כבר את הקיר בדרך לשער הרחמים. לא מביט סביב, לא מקשיב, איש חולם אני, וכך היה תמיד. אבל מכיר כבר את הקיר בדרך לשער הרחמים. חי פעם רק פעם, יש טעם אין טעם, עם כוח בלי כוח שער הרחמים. בואי איתי יחד, בואי מתוך הפחד, כי את גם את חלק משער הרחמים. בתוך ליבי יש צעקה והיא גדולה. הראו לי את שער הרחמים. רק פעם, יש טעם אין טעם, עם כוח בלי כוח, שער הרחמים. בואי איתי יחד, בואי מתוך הפחד, כי אז גם את חלק משער הרחמים. בואי איתי יחד, בואי מתוך הפחד, כי אז גם את חלק משער הרחמים.
The gates of mercy, the Shar HaRachamim, is actually the golden gate. It's a physical place. Oh, sorry. We're going to share. I like sharing with you.
Okay, cool. Feel free. So we go into our text and we look through for the golden gate and we ask, we see in Exodus, let them make me a sanctuary that I may dwell among them. It's those moments where during Tisha B'Av and Lamentations we feel like God has abandoned us. But no. Make for me a sanctuary. Make for a holy place for the sake of my name. God should dwell within us. And Jeremiah goes on to say, for I did not speak to your ancestors, nor commanded them in the day that I brought them out of the land of Egypt, concerning burnt offerings or sacrifices. Rather, this is what I commanded them, saying, listen to my voice, and I will be your God, and you shall be my people. You shall walk in all the ways that I command you, so that it will be good for you. There are times where it may feel like God deserts us, but no. Sometimes it's a matter of searching more for God and finding God within as well. Those gates of returning, of tshuva, they're within us. So Shmot Rabbah says, take for me an offering. And this is the meaning of the verse, that I was sleeping, but my heart was awake. How often we've walked through life asleep, unaware, but our heart is nagging at us and pulling at us and saying, wake up, pay attention. Isn't that what the shofar blast reminds us to do? Wake up, pay attention. The people of Israel said, I have been asleep in regard to the end. However, the Holy One is awake. God doesn't sleep. I am asleep from the story of the calf, but my heart is awake, and the Holy One captivates me. Open up for me, my sister, my friend, Song of Songs. For how long must I travel without a home? So the Torah says, make for me a sanctuary, so that I need not be on the outside. We remember the destruction of the first and the second temples. We remember so many other times of destruction within our history. But it's not about the place. It's about us. When God says, make for me a sanctuary, the sanctuary isn't just one with walls. The sanctuary is the sanctuary within our hearts. It's the relationship that we have with God, with one another, and with ourselves. Make for me a sanctuary that I may dwell with you. That sanctuary is inside.
And as we cry, Tisha B'Av, don't move away so fast from the place of crying. We tend to comfort ourselves sometimes very quickly. We don't want to deal with those things that make us cry. We try to think about something else. It's very common when someone is crying, you say, well, think about something else. Do something else. Focus on something else. And actually, Tisha B'Av is here in the calendar in order to allow us to cry. Now, we want to dedicate our attention to those things that are making us struggle, those things that are keeping us away from the person, the society that we want to create, that we want to become. And as we cry, we create the space for those thoughts to become more clear. We need to cry in order to see clearly. And as we took some time today in order to think about those things that are making us cry or are not making us cry, and they should, which is also important. Before we move toward the end of this Tisha B'Av gathering service study, I want to invite you to think about what are the things that you need to build. What is the sanctuary that you want to build for yourself? What are the places in which you need to place your tears in order to start to unify yourself, to bring your soul closer, to be a closer picture of the human being that you want to be? So maybe you just take a moment to think about your sanctuary.
Oh Lord, prepare me to be a sanctuary, pure and holy, tried and true. With thanksgiving, I'll be a living sanctuary for you.
ועשורי מקדש ושכנתי בתוכם, ואנחנו נברך יד מעתה ועד עולם. ועשו לי מקדש ושכנתי בתוכם, ואנחנו נברך יד מעתה ועד עולם. Oh yeah, prepare me to be a sanctuary, pure and holy, try and true. With thanksgiving, I'll be a living sanctuary for you. Please rise. Today in Parashat Dvarim we remember that Moses said that I can't do this work alone. We need a community in order to create better versions of ourselves and also a better society. And we need loving kindness in order to create the society that we aspire to create. Olam chesed yivane. Yadadai, dai, dai, dadadai, dai. Olam chesed yivane. Yadadai, dai, dai, yadadai, dai. Olam chesed yivane. Yadadai, dai, dai, yadadai, dai. Olam chesed yivane. Yadadai, dai, dai, yadadai, dai. I will build this world from love. Yadadai, dai, dai, yadadai, dai. You shall build this world from love. Yadadai, dai, dai, dadadai, dai. And if we build this world from love, yadadai, dai, dai, yadadai, dai. Then God will build this world from love. Yadadai, dai, dai, yadadai, dai. Olam chesed yivane. Yadadai, dai, dai, dadadai, dai. Olam chesed yivane. Yadadai, dai, dai, dadadai, dai. Olam chesed yivane. Yadadai, dai, dai, dadadai, dai. Olam chesed yivane. Yadadai, dai, dai, yadadai, dai. Adonai os le'amo item. May God give us the courage and the strength to create shalom, to create wholeness. Adonai yevarech et amo b'shalom. Shalom. We say we don't greet. We say shalom. Dai, 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 dai.